Thank you, Mike Lawriding.
Thank you.
Jack Straw from the Labour Party.
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Jack Straw, the Labour candidate for Blackburn. Politics, elections are ultimately about choices. And yes, they're about choices of programme, but they're above all about a choice of values. Our values, Labour values, are about fairness and about equality, which is not about treating everybody the same, but are recognising and celebrating, honouring and respecting people's differences. That's why we have worked fantastically hard these last 13 years to build Blackburn out of the depression that was there during the 18 years of Conservative government, when thousands lost their jobs and very little was done to improve schools, hospitals, colleges, housing and much else besides, and crime was rising. And there have been dramatic improvements in each of those areas, as I'll show. But in addition to that, we're the only party which has ever introduced and enforced legislation to give people of different races and religions equal rights in our society. We got through the House of Commons legislation against incitement to religious hatred, I'm afraid against the opposition of the other parties. We've, for example, been the only Western government to sponsor a Hajj delegation and much else besides. And what I stand for is, yes, on my record in this town, of seeing it being transformed for the better, but also securing the recovery and ensuring that we build on what has been done for the future.
Jack Straw, thank you so much. And Paul English from the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paul English and I'm here as the Liberal Democrat candidate, and I've come to Blackburn to win the seat for the Liberal Democrats. I'm of the age where I remember Thatcher's Britain in the 70s and 80s, and I also remember the last 13 years of a Labour government. And I believe that if we want real change, then only the Liberal Democrats can offer that. We have a whole host of policies, which I'm sure will come out in today's debate. Fair taxes for all, a fair chance for every child, a fair future for everyone, and a fair deal. By cleaning up politics is one of the main things that I stand for. I've come here to fight the seat seriously. I believe we can win, but I can only do that with your help. So the destiny of Blackburn and this country is in your hands on Thursday the 6th of May, and hopefully you'll use that opportunity to vote wisely.
Paul English, thank you so much. We have another number of candidates standing in this election. I can just read you the names of them. Standing for the United Kingdom Independence Party's Bobby Anwar, an independent Grace Astley, independent Janice Sharp, and the BNP candidate Robin Evans. Jack Straw, to you first. You've been in power 13 years. Under Gordon Brown's premiership, you now have a deficit of £178 billion. How do you intend to repay that back?
We intend to repay that back by getting the deficit down, halving it, over the next 4 years to 2014. And that can and will be done, and we've set out, not least in the last budget book, clear plans for doing so. It's worth getting this is the total, what you're talking about is the total national debt in perspective, which is the total national mortgage. We've been able to borrow this year and next at reasonably high levels, at 11-12% of our total national income, which is historically high because we started from a very low base. So the national mortgage was much lower than many other countries, in fact just at the same level as France and Germany, at about 40% of GDP. If you compare that with where Greece was when all this started, well over 100%, and indeed the same was true, say, of Italy, and in Japan 200%. And these, I know these are numbers, but they're very important, not least to the market. So yes, we're borrowing about 11% of GDP this year and probably around that level next year. But at the end of this period, the total national mortgage will be up at about 80%, which will be around the same level as other secure economies like France and Germany, which is why it's frankly ridiculous for one party to compare our situation with Greece. It's not remotely like Greece, and it won't be. Crucially, yes, we've got to make economies. I've been making economies in the department that I run, but you can't make economies without pain. And what you must not do is both give tax cuts to the very well off, which are unnecessary, and propose to take £6,000 million out of the economy this financial year, which has already started, which would lead to a very significant loss of jobs and cuts in services across the country.
Michael O'Ryan, the Conservatives have promised real cuts this year. Can you just spell them out for our viewers?
I think really, I mean, no party has revealed in any detail the plan cuts, but we've identified an additional.
So you don't know what the cuts are?
$6 billion. Let me go on with this. Unlike the Labour or Lib Dems, these guys, they want to wait until 2011, and we believe that we need to be starting now. David Cameron said this morning we need to be starting Friday. Okay. What are we going to do? There's lots of things. I mean, it's not all about cuts as well. There's other issues around the economy that we need to deal with. We will reinstate pension links with earnings. There'll be no increase on national insurance or VAT. There'll be a public sector pay freeze. There'll be cuts in central government ministers' pay by 5%, and that'll be frozen for 5 years. We will cut the number of MPs by 10%. We will create 400,000 new apprenticeships over 2 years. The list goes on. There's more and more in there. But I think it was made very clear by David Cameron today that the Labour Party haven't put forward a 3-year spending plan. They know the detail, they know the books, and we don't yet. We don't know the full detail of this.
Okay. Bushra Irfan?
Well, I think the public's already had so many cuts. They're already in a bad way. There's no jobs. The food prices are going up. Petrol prices are all going up. Things are all increasing. Inflation's going high. I think it's unfair to put such a huge burden on the public all the time. I think it's about time the government started looking at their own policies and having a look to see where the money is going. For example, it would be great if we could cut down on Trident. We'd save billions of pounds there. We'd save at least £2 billion a year if we stopped on the war on Afghanistan, and not to mention how many millions or billions we could save if we stopped on Iraq as well. There's so much that's going on that could be, where savings could be made instead of penalising the individuals who are already being penalised enough.
Thank you, Bushra. And Paul English?
Yeah, thank you. Just listening casually here, and to be honest, none of the parties on my left have a clue. We have put in our manifesto, and we've been the only party that have put detailed figures on what we intend to do. I'm glad that Bushra is talking about Trident, because that's one of our flagship policies. We've also talked about a mansion tax for people who own valuable properties. But listening today on the news driving here, even David Cameron admitted that their policies were just a flash in the pan to accommodate the real debt. The truth is, we've had 13 years of a Labour government who've overextended themselves. They've lived on the never-never, and they've got the country in a mess. You look what's happening in Greece now. People are out on the streets rioting because of the public service cuts. That's what would happen possibly if the Conservatives started slashing and cutting tomorrow.
Okay. Michael, to you first. You said there's a commitment not to increase VAT. David Cameron, speaking to the BBC today, did not rule this out. He's not ruled the out. So he's not said there's going to be no VAT over the course of the Parliament.
What he has said is that he can't rule out any increases in tax. He specified that VAT will not be increased.
But he's not ruled it out.
He's not ruled out increasing taxes, not specifically VAT. From what I heard, he said we will not increase VAT.
Okay. Any questions on economy from the audience? Okay. No, it's interesting economy. Jack, I mean, there is a serious point here, isn't there? That if we carry on spending the way we are, at some stage we're going to have to stop spending. And how will the Labour Party, if got re-elected under Gordon Brown, reduce the deficit?